Countless words have been spent on which single-player experience is better between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. But what about the multiplayer of these two classics? Which one is more deserving of your time, and are they even good? Short answer, yes, they're both a blast. So, I will compare these two mechanically different games to gauge which one is the most fun to play and which one is the most competitive. Cause you know, back in the days, arena FPS were the pinnacle of competitiveness, and I'm sure Valve added the Deathmatch mode to Half-Life 2 because he felt obligated to pay homage to this genre. Moreover, in 2004 arena FPS were still relevant, while nowadays they're not. So let's start by the similarities. Both Half-Life 1 and 2 are chaotic as hell, and that's why I love them so much. Join an Half-Life 2 Deathmatch server and you will be greeted by random flying props that will make you wonder if you actually entered an Half-Life 2 server and not a classroom of middle schooler. Plus, you will constantly hear a buzzing of SMG gunfire. On the other hand, when joining an Half-Life 1 server, you will get to see sweaty nerds defying the laws of gravity with their pesky bunny hop shenanigans and the gauss gun abuse. Nuclear explosions will decimate the entire server in one go, and the constant SFX sound of explosions will blast your ears, since noobs love their RPG and MP5 grenades. Both games are ultra messy, and every time you hop in a server you will for sure find yourself in situations that will make you crack a smile. One thing that I love about all this messiness is that it easily translates into fun that both pros and noobs can enjoy. One aspect about arena FPS that brought the genre down is that they're not exactly accessible to new players. However, I think that thanks to the amazing roster of weapons in the Half-Life series, even noobs have a chance of killing the highest scoring nerd in the server. OP weapons such as the RPG, that functions almost identically between the two games, can help little noobs get a +1 score and not feel bad about themselves. The same applies to weapons such as the Egon gun in Half-Life 1. Many players hate it because it's so strong it can give any player that meets its ray for more than a couple of seconds, but you know, it exists and so you gotta deal with it. The lightning gun from Quake pales in comparison to this Black Mesa technological masterpiece. A very accessible weapon in Half-Life 2 instead is the gravity gun. First of all, you spawn with it, and it lets you grab big-ass objects that barely need any aim to kill your opponents, so go ahead and shove them object up your opponent's hearts. Another fun albeit advanced trick, which I deem to be an highlight of Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, is the gravity gun plus grenades combo. Once you get the hang of it, it will be more satisfying than any sex you will ever have in your life. It's also a very effective strategy. The presence of the gravity gun is indeed the high point of Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. No other multiplayer game has ever let players play around with physics to murder anyone who crosses your path, and even though Half-Life 2 Deathmatch is a 2004 game, the physics still hold up to this day, so you gotta play it. Another easily accessible weapon in Half-Life 2 Deathmatch is the SMG. You spawn with it, and even if I prefer the Half-Life 1 MP5 because it doesn't feel and sound like a pea shooter, I enjoy tracking down opponents and try to hit as many headshots as possible. Sometimes it feels like you aren't even hitting enemies, since it only does 5 damage, but I think that Half-Life 2 Deathmatch netcode makes some hit disappear. Regardless of this, it's very fun to engage in a 1v1 SMG duel and coming on top of it after a long battle. But what's the highlight of Half-Life 1 Deathmatch gameplay? Well, the crucial matter with Half-Life 1 Deathmatch is that if you really want to have lots of fun, you need to be good at it, or at least decent. I play Half-Life 1 Deathmatch almost every day, and bunny hopping around assaulting people through the sheer power of my movement speed to then blast their head with a right click from the shotgun is just priceless. If I spot a pesky camper hiding in a corner, holding on its gauss gun or crossbow, I start circle jumping to get up close and personal to him and surprise his lazy ass. Movement truly is key in Half-Life 1 Deathmatch, and mastering the trajectories of the gauss gun, it's a crucial skill to net yourself precious resources like more ammo, health, and to be more elusive from enemy gunfire. The best players love their gauss gun, and for all the right reasons. It's cool to look at, it's powerful, it can wallbang enemies through walls, and the ray bounces off walls as well, and also it makes you move around the map like a butterfly. If rocket jumping is for men, gauss gun boosting is for gentlemen. My only dream in life is to impress a lady with my sick gauss gun skills and bunny hopping skills. I'm sure she will turn as wet as the apprehension waters. In Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, movement is less important. In fact, bunny hopping doesn't feel as natural as in the Goldster C engine, and also in Half-Life 2 your jumps are very weak, they barely elevate you from the ground. But there is a sprint feature which is crucial to use when strafing right and left while fighting an enemy. Also, don't forget that you can sprint backwards, which can prove useful to escape. Another cool features in Half-Life 1 Deathmatch are the satchel charges. Sure, Half-Life 2 got its C4, I guess, which it's both a satchel and a trip mine united, since C4 explode if you step on them, but the way the satchel charges can be thrown in Half-Life 1, thanks to the wonky Goldster C physics, makes them very cool to launch. I really like them, and I'm in love with the SFX explosion sound of Half-Life 1. Moreover, mastering the physics of the Half-Life 1 grenades can prove useful too. The Goldster C engine, as I've already said, is quirky as hell when it comes to throwables, but detonating the nade, counting down the 5 seconds to then throw it in the face of an enemy who is trying to kill you with a pistol is just priceless and will make the enemy rage for sure. Since we are talking about pistols, the 9mm Glock in Half-Life 1 may seem weak in the hands of the new player, but its perfect accuracy makes it a good weapon if you can hit multiple headshots in a row. Killing someone wielding a stronger gun like an MP5 always gets my heart, and I can feel their tears through my screen. The Half-Life 2 USP, in my opinion, is way weaker, because it's not perfectly accurate, and in Half-Life 2 Deathmatch you spawn with the SMG, which is just a better version of the USP. So, you can only use the USP if you want to humiliate your opponents. But talking about the humiliation, the crowbar is the perfect weapon to do so. Both games comprise the iconic crowbar, but in Half-Life 2 Deathmatch you also get a baton if you spawn as a combine. And the baton is pretty cool, I like the way it looks, and plus it deals more damage than the crowbar, but its rate of fire is lower. In fact, if the crowbar deals 35 damage, the baton does 40. However, I prefer to engage in melee combat in Half-Life 1 Deathmatch, because I really like its movement and I just like to sprint on top of an enemy and go at it with my crowbar. They usually get pretty mad. Let's also touch on the difference between the crossbow and revolver in both games. The punchy Half-Life 2 revolver is a true pleasure to shoot from, and with its 75 body shot damage, it's way more powerful than the Half-Life 1 counterpart, which only deals 40. Of course, landing an headshot with the Half-Life 1 Magnum is much more satisfying, but the Half-Life 2 just looks and feels better to shoot from. When it comes to the crossbow instead, even though the Half-Life 2 1 looks very cool with its incandescent bolt, the travel speed of the bolt is kinda slow, and if you want to use it as a long-range sniper, you really can't. It's very hard and you need to predict the enemy movement. The revolver is much better for this. Instead, in Half-Life 1, you might not be able to impale players, which is pretty cool Half-Life 2 Deathmatch feature, but at least the crossbow is much stronger. In fact, the true highlight of the crossbow is the secondary fire, which turns the crossbow into almost a semi-automatic sniper, since the rate of fire is not really low and the damage is quite high. In fact, it deals 120 damage, insta-killing every enemy who is not wearing any armor. I'll take a moment to reflect on the maps of both games. In my opinion, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch maps haven't really been created with a criteria of balance behind them. Most guns aren't positioned in a strategic way, and some maps lack enough health and armor to refill yourself. I feel like they are more of a playground to play around with your gravity gun than actual arenas. Moreover, one aspect I dislike about Half-Life 2 Deathmatch is that the guns and pickups lay on the ground like any other prop would, which means that items like the SMG grenades or the 357 revolver or even the shotgun are sometimes hard to spot, and even worse, they are susceptible to physics, and so if there's an explosion around them, they can get swept away and you will never find them again. Well, I think that Valve could have done a better job in highlighting these weapons. In Half-Life 1 instead they are not highlighted, but the simpler Gold SRC graphics makes them easy to recognize. I am of the opinion that Half-Life 1 Deathmatch maps are better crafted. Their design is tighter, weapons and pickups are more strategically positioned, but the main reason Half-Life 1 maps are better is that they are suited for competitive play, e.g. dueling. Challenging someone in a 1v1 feels very dispersive when done on an Half-Life 2 Deathmatch map, meanwhile in Half-Life 1 it truly feels like your classic arena FPS experience. Moreover, I feel like maps such as Crossfire, Bootcamp, Bounce and Underthrow and Rapid Core are slightly more iconic than a Runoff, Lockdown, Resistance or Underpass. But I honestly feel very affectionate and nostalgic to both roster of maps, since Half-Life 2 Deathmatch was one of my first multiplayer FPS, but objectively I still prefer Half-Life 1's ones. Another point on why I prefer playing Half-Life 1 is very practical, and it's about the ability to change your crosshair in Half-Life 1. In fact, the Half-Life 2 crosshair is very small when playing on even Full HD, and in 1440p it's even worse, and it's very hard to aim your crosshair at enemy's head. It will turn you blind if you're trying to snipe someone with a revolver. Instead, in Half-Life 1, you can just replace the sprite file, and yeah, there are many crosshairs online on Game Banana, and if you're feeling creative, you can even do one yourself on Microsoft Paint. So, in conclusion, which one is better between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 Deathmatch? Well, as I've already said, I think that Half-Life 1 Deathmatch is the best game if you want to approach it in a competitive fashion. I mean, of course, there are no tournaments and nothing like that going on anymore in 2023, unfortunately, but I think it's the more hardcore experience. Instead, Half-Life 2 is more relaxed, messy, and it's just as fun though. At the end of the day, it's up to personal preference. One thing we can cherish though is that they are both pretty alive in 2023, which I'm very happy about, since I really love these two games, especially Half-Life 1 Deathmatch, and if I couldn't play back in 2016-15, I remember the servers being very empty. Nowadays they are pretty populated. Now I don't know if they're bots or real people or a mix, it's probably a mix, but yeah.